Ну что, а это вот и есть тот самый подкоп. Вот здесь между стенами расстояние где-то до 90 сантиметров. Вот могут разместиться два меня. Так, где-то вот. Могут разместиться вот два меня. Ну, полтора, может быть. Вот здесь рядом со мной. Вот сейчас показываю. Вот еще оставленные лопатки. Вот именно этими лопатами и организовывалась эта специальная операция подземная. Ну, честно, масштабно. Честно, я вот сейчас нахожусь здесь и просто удивлен. Другие эмоции, конечно, но уместно сказать, наверное, удивлен. Либо такие же эпитеты. Просто такой масштаб колоссальной работы. Фу, я даже не представляю, сколько парней здесь работали. Ну, это война. Война — это тяжелая работа.
While the Russian troops are regrouping for new offensives, the armed forces of Ukraine have organized several counterattacks in different parts of the front. South of Sudzha, in Kursk, they tried to cut off the Russian grouping from supplies, which was bogged down in the battles to the suburbs, that is, the village of Makhnovka. West of Pokrovsk, Ukrainian units tried to recapture the industrial suburbs recently captured by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. However, in general, the armed forces of Ukraine are still in a difficult situation. The Russian command seems to be preparing a new series of offensives in the central and northern parts of Donbass, as well as in the east of the Kharkiv region. Now, notably, the Russian army officially announced the control of the city of Toretsk, which gained back its name, Zizynsk. On February 7th, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation officially confirmed the full control of the city, as well as of the village of Druzhba, located on its northeastern outskirts. The Ukrainian army resists only in the claims of Ukrainian military officials and in Ukrainian media. The Russian Defense Minister congratulated the fighters of the 132nd, the 9th, the 1st Separate Guards Motorized Rifle Brigades, and the 109th Separate Infantry Regiment on their victory in the battle for Zizynsk. As a result, the number of strategic Russian victories in the Donbass is growing. Since February 2024, the Russian army took control of a large number of cities and towns that were turned into strategically important Ukrainian strongholds. They include Avdiivka, Novogorodovka, Ugledar, Selidovo, Krasnogorovka, Ukrainsk, Vornyak, Kurakhove, Velika Novoselka, and not to mention dozens of smaller villages. In its turn, the Kiev regime keeps throwing entire units with NATO military equipment into a meat grinder in the Russian Kursk region, proud of its control of a small town of Sudzha. To many observers of this war, including me, it is most ridiculous that Moscow is ready to launch meaningful negotiations at any moment, while Kiev is doing its best to prolong the bloodshed and provoke an escalation. So my friends, today is the first frontline update for this channel. It will cover the Pokrovsk, Kurakhove, Kupyansk, Kursk, and most of all, the Toretsk sectors. This is a brand new channel called Whips Geopolitics. It's an offshoot of another channel called What's Hidden in Plain Sight, which is the long-form version of Whips and was recently demonetized. So help me grow this channel quickly by hitting the like button, the notification bell, and most of all, subscribing. And let's aim to get monetized within 6 months. So let's get into it. Russian troops reached the southern outskirts of Sudzha at the end of December. There, the breakthrough from the village of Cherkasskaya Konopelka through Makhnovka was stopped by counterattacks of the armed forces of Ukraine. The positions of the Russian armed forces in Makhnovka were connected to the main forces by a road running along a narrow corridor near the Sel River. On January 6, the armed forces of Ukraine struck this corridor with 2 mechanized columns. One attacked from the Kolmakov farm in the direction of Ruskaya Konopelka, the other through Cherkasskaya Konopelka in the direction of the Sel River. Armored vehicles of the armed forces of Ukraine were able to land troops south of Cherkasskaya Konopelka before the Russian army attacked them with drones. Despite the losses in equipment, Ukrainian troops entrenched themselves in the forest between Cherkasskaya Konopelka and Ulkanov, thus cutting off the supply lines of the Russian armed forces on the outskirts of Sudzha. Judging by the video of Russian drone strikes, the armed forces of Ukraine were able to break through to Fanasivka on the bank of the Sel. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation announced the attacks were repelled, but the Ukrainian observers do not agree with it. Fighting continues to the west and north of Sudzha. The Russian armed forces have not been able to knock out the armed forces of Ukraine from the fortified areas in Malaya Lokhnia and Verlikovo, without the occupation of which it is impossible to displace Ukrainian troops from Sudzha. Meanwhile, President Zelensky had a few comments in a recent interview with Reuters on the Kursk invasion. In quotations, and this was one of the preventative steps to stop the Russians from capturing Sumy in the north and Kharkiv in the east. It was in this region that our military took preventative actions. They launched the Kursk offensive. The task was to disrupt the occupation of our cities, and our brigades took successful steps. They executed everything beautifully. It was very dangerous, he commented. Zelensky assured that Ukraine's leadership understood that Putin would return. What he failed to achieve in Kiev in 2022, they say, he would attempt again, the president noted, recalling Russia's offensive operations in the Kharkiv and Sumy regions. In quotations, he wanted to take another major breakthrough and capture at least 2 regions, each with a population of over 1 million, Zelensky added. He also emphasized that due to this operation, Russia redeployed many troops from the east and south of Ukraine due to pressure from Ukrainian forces. Now, of course, most of you who have been following this war knows that that is a blatant lie, as many Western reports and Ukrainian reports have confirmed that this Kursk incursion has not caused Russia to displace any troops from its offensive in the Donbass. Zelensky reported that the defense forces advanced 2.5 kilometers in one day and lost 230 people in the Kursk region. And why did they do this? I have always said that the Kursk operation is a series of preventative strikes by the Russians. According to him, Ukrainian troops struck a command post in the Kursk region on February 3rd, killing many officers there. I was told that about 20 officers were killed. Among them were senior officers from North Korea and Russia, Zelensky concluded. The armed forces of Ukraine again counterattacked Russian troops, which made their way to the western industrial outskirts of Pokrovsk. A Ukrainian mechanized column broke into the village of Pishani, where a coal mine under construction is located. Earlier, the village was captured by the Russian armed forces. The armed forces of Ukraine were wedged into the Russian defense by several hundred meters, but they failed to completely occupy Pishani. Counterattacks of the armed forces of Ukraine do not yet threaten the main Russian forces, which are in control of the industrial villages of Kotliny and Udachny further north. However, the pace of the offensive of the Russian armed forces has slowed down in recent days. The armed forces of the Russian Federation also captured the village of Dachny, west of Kurakhove. The armed forces of Ukraine continued to retreat from the city previously captured by Russian troops. They are still threatened by the encirclement near the villages of Andriivka, Constantinople, and Ulakli.
Control.
Let's proceed to talk about the main event of this past week. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation announced that Russian troops had completely captured the city of Toretsk. It is not clear in which borders the department determines the boundaries of the city. According to Ukrainian media, part of the territory of neighboring working villages is still controlled by the armed forces of Ukraine, and they consider them part of the official community of Toretsk. However, they do admit that the city center and the northern districts have indeed completely come under the control of the Russian army. By now, Russian troops have destroyed the last pockets of resistance, which has finally established full control over the city, according to Russian sources. In recent weeks, fighting has been ongoing for the last Ukrainian strongholds on the outskirts. Ukrainian forces resisted on the gob piles west of the Toretsk mine and in the area of sewage treatment plants. The remnants of the Ukrainian garrison were destroyed on the territory of the mine after 5 months of heavy battles for the city. The battle for Zizynsk was one of the heaviest assaults in the Donbass because of a large number of heights and a large network of coal mining facilities turned into Ukrainian strongholds. The Russian military first increased pressure from the eastern direction, from the villages of Pivnichny and Pivdeny. Then they increased offensive operations from the south and southwest, from New York. Almost the entire residential area of the city has long been captured by units of the Russian army, especially after the intensification of the offensive in late December and January. The battle for Zizynsk includes fighting in the settlements included in the urban agglomeration. On the northern outskirts, the full control of Krimsky was officially confirmed on February 1st. Today, the Russian Defense Ministry reported liberation of Druzhba. According to the latest reports from the battlefield, Russian forces are completing the mop-up operations on its outskirts. Battles are ongoing in Dachny. According to preliminary reports, Russian forces took control of Shubinivka on the western outskirts. Russian victory in the Zizynsk urban agglomeration pushed the Ukrainian military away from the western outskirts of Gorlovka, decreasing their daily attacks on civilians in the city. This is also a strategically important victory. Russian control of this large defense node of the Ukrainian army in the Donbass paves the way for Russian offensive in the direction of Konstantinovka and threatens the flanks of the large Ukrainian grouping in Kramatorsk. Now the Russian army is developing offensive in the direction of Konstantinovka in 3 directions, including from Toretsk in the southeast, from Vozdivizhenka in the southwest, and from Chasiv Yar in the northeast. Konstantinovka may soon be captured in a pincer grip. Moreover, both Zizynsk and Chasiv Yar are located on heights unlike Ukrainian positions in Konstantinovka. Now further up north, Russian troops are expanding the bridgehead on the west bank of the Oskil River north of Kupyansk. Earlier, the armed forces of the Russian Federation occupied the village of Vorochnaya, and now they have fortified themselves in the villages of Zapadnoye, south of Vorochnaya, Novominsk, and Igolivka, north of this village. Russian troops also managed to occupy the heights on the bank of the river, which will make it easier for them to defend the bridgehead. If the armed forces of the Russian Federation expand the bridgehead to the border of Russia, they will be able to introduce heavy equipment and artillery on it and supply them with ammunition. Troops on the bridgehead will then pose a real danger to Kupyansk, most of which is located on the west bank of the Oskil, 10 kilometers from the forward positions of the Russian army. The armed forces of Ukraine have not yet transferred reserves to this dangerous direction. The defense around the bridgehead is occupied by only a few separate weak battalions.